There's been very high targets, as you know, set, Minister Omola, for tripling renewable capacity by 2030, cutting emissions, improving efficiency, a methane pledge, which is now in stone and people are shooting for. Do we have to be extremely realistic about what the goals are? It's good to have the goals and even stretch targets. What's your experience now and what you're seeing coming out of the last 2 years of COP about realism and what needs to be done?
Thank you, John, and I'm happy that now we are talking about this very realistically, and we are talking about open and fair, I would say, ask. Because when we were requested to have this transition, when I talk about we, I mean Egypt, countries alike, Africa, and others. So perhaps the answers or the commitments then were just too ambitious, too stretched, and people in countries did not realize how difficult they are. So these targets were not set by them. So they were so far requested to. So in all good faith, they said, okay, of course, this is it was not that simple, but I'm just trying to simplify the scenario. So they said, okay, in actual world, the implementation, and when time has passed since 2015, Paris Agreement, passing through different COPs, then COP27, then COP28, I think people passing through this learning curve in countries, they realized that we need to set the tone, to adjust it, to correct the request. Then the ask would be more realistic. And therefore, and I have to take this as an important success to Egypt. When we did insist in COP27 to stop and to say we need to have oil and gas industry in our conference. We know that it was difficult. It has been once, it hasn't been before. It was a precedent, and there was big pushback until we were able to accommodate such requests. Why was that? Because we said we need to make the difference. We need to be realistic from now ongoing, from now forward to the future. So since it was there in Sharm el-Sheikh, we said we need, therefore we started to have this decarbonization day, and we had included all this kind of hard to abate industries, oil and gas, fertilizers, whatever, in our formula. Then, since we started to bring them on the table, or as a fact, as stakeholders in the formula, then we started to talk about being realistic. Therefore, we ended by having the loss and damage fund. Yes, it was activated during COP28, but at least for the first time ever, there was a consensus on putting a fund for this. Number two, we were talking about the just transition. And
yeah, how do you define that, Minister? I'd love to have you focus and say, now that you did that work, how do you say what is a just, fair transition? It's not one size fits all. It's not the North determining what the South looks like. Can we look at country by country and say, this is the correct energy mix for Egypt, and Ethiopia, Kenya has moved very fast on the transition, but it's very different than what you would see in Nigeria. Is that correct?
This is true. And why? Why are we saying, for example, these two examples, one in the east of Africa and one in the west of Africa? You know, there are two African countries, this is true, but you cannot compare the size of the population in the two countries. You cannot compare the size of their economies. You cannot compare a producing oil and gas company while not. So therefore, challenges and economies would implies and dictates the roadmap. So when you talk about Egypt, for example, and we are among the countries that had already selected, for example, natural gas as the hydrocarbon that is the most and the least emissions of carbon. That's fine. But on the other hand, we said 2035 will have 42% of our energy mix to be renewables.
Is that attainable, do you think, now?
Fact of life? No. And why is that? Because this is what yesterday we were able to gather in the panel to discuss openly by saying it's good, we have done everything in good faith, we have committed, we have our NDCs, we did put some good synergies in cooperation with Europe in order to put some green hydrogen projects. We did some important first ever green bonds issuance in the market. We also did join the methane pledge, and then what? So we are good country. Yes, we are good country. We did
good energy citizen.
We did the homework. Good energy citizen. Yes, good energy citizen. But okay, come now and tell me where are the renewables in our energy mix? We are still now depending on 90% of our electricity on fossil fuel. Can you tell me that in 2030 or 2035 you will have 42%? I can tell you easily no. Cannot. And that's what President Sisi yesterday came in and told us, that you cannot ask countries like us to take a commitment of spending these capex and these investments to make this transition, while we did not, or we are not responsible for the emissions or for whatever that has harmed the globe. So nevertheless, here comes the importance again of how we could come to this just transition. Just then is like talking to African countries, as we spoke several times before, I don't want to repeat myself. 600 million do not have access to electricity. More than 700 or 800 do not have clean cooking. What are you talking about? Emissions and clean air and whatever. Feed me first and then tell me about clean air. This is one thing. So we are talking about huge investments and that are costly, and we need really, I was saying one time that we need generous funds, we need generous grants. Otherwise, we will never, not only Egypt, definitely, all other Africans, we will never meet these targets. Okay, what happened in COP27 and COP28? I think that we made our position clear, and it was very loud and clear. And therefore, I think that the outcome of COP28 in Dubai, talking about an orderly manner and talking about intentions of phasing on a phased manner to phase out of fossil fuel. This is the approach where you can never ignore Before that, we were talking about just
Theories.
theories and just, I would say, big words in order to attract fans, green, and some politics that would be in the background of such decisions.
Do you think, in fact, and not to interrupt you, but I'd love to get your thoughts as an energy veteran at Chevron, and you took that expertise into the ministry now for 6 years. And, you know, it was us versus them. You couldn't move the environmentalists or the climate journalists to accept the fact that there was a push by Egypt and even the UAE, and I'm sure for Azerbaijan, to say that oil and gas and energy companies should be in the tent. And I think that's changed quite radically, right? And we had Weatherford on a discussion on the methane pledge, and they were saying, you know, they have faith in technology, for example. And if you don't have that engineering prowess, and you come from that expertise as an engineer, you won't tackle climate change, and you won't get to net zero. Do you think we've now moved past that debate of whether who should be in the tent and at the negotiating table and who has not? Do you
Yes.
truly believe that?
I truly believe in that, and I think that that's what I was focusing on, trying to, I would say, highlight and underscore what we did, accommodating and hosting the COP27. We did a big difference, and I assume that from there we were lucky to have our Emirati friends and brothers to accommodate and to host also COP28, because they definitely have more stake in that. They are pure exporters of hydrocarbons. So meanwhile, they prove also to be a role model, because they have the mix of a committed and serious plans for renewables, for green hydrogen. At the same time, we heard Dr. Sultan several times saying more fossil fuels with less emissions. So this means that, and we heard yesterday Haytham al-Ghais saying, we need hydrocarbons, oil is still there, and this is the fact of life. But this doesn't mean that this is the end of it. No, we need to be responsible, and we need to commit also to greenhouse gas emissions and climate change abatement. So definitely we need to have our plans at the same time. But again, we did not answer the question. So in the just transition, in an orderly manner, and not one size fits all, this means that the big economies, technology providers, the wealth should give hand to other economies. So therefore, here comes the just transition. African countries and others, Egypt and other countries, need also to develop their resources, their oil and gas resources, in order to
grow.
Exactly, to fund their living, to fund their GDP. So how come you ask me to transit without having enough earnings to my people, to development? So this is how I think the message is clear. I think that everybody now believes in that. And now when you go internationally and sit and hear the sessions from the USA, from the EU, they are now accommodating our requests, and they see how. But what they want, and I agree, they need to see an integrated plan. So give me day one, and then last day. What is your journey? Yeah, it would take you 30 years, 25 years, 50 years, that's fine. But put for me a plan where I can accommodate your requests and give you whatever support is needed. Fund, they will have their ECAs, or they will have their multilaterals. They have good influence on them, so they can push them to give you the funds. there are some grants, and we know that there are grants and we can receive them, but they need to have an integrated plan. And this is something that we are in Egypt working on, and I think that we have the integrated plan is now coming up when we are currently updating our energy strategy that will read till 2040, and that will include hydrogen, low carbon hydrogen in its content, so that we will reach a position where we will have a comprehensive plan to put on the table, so that when we go and fight for some funds and compete with other countries, we will be able to justify, because they will not be, these funds and this support will not be available for people who do not have a plan, a comprehensive plan.
Can I follow up here? I was looking back, because it's been a very disruptive 15, 20 years. If you think about to the 2008 to 2010 financial crisis, right? We've had energy shocks in between, then we had a pandemic. And the knee-jerk reaction after the pandemic, I think the world spent about $3 trillion. When there is an emergency, money is found. And we saw nationalist tendencies, to cocoon and protect themselves. But I don't get that sense of urgency from the global community. I thought you were crystal clear, and so is the president. We're trying to make the transition. We need funding. But that sense of urgency to unlock the funds to accelerate the transition for the global south and provide clean natural gas, right? You're saying you want to leapfrog into clean natural gas. Why isn't that sense of urgency that you shared on stage yesterday morning not pervasive in the energy community or the climate community at COP28? I mean, the last 2 years at COP, you were very clear, this is the ask. We need about $4 trillion a year, right? We're investing about 1.3 in renewables today. It's a big gap, right? Why can't we rally that sense of urgency? Because it's a medium-term problem? Is that the challenge?
No, I think that geopolitics are playing a big influence on that. Therefore, priorities for decision makers are a little bit misplaced.
Is it trapped in election cycles, do you think?
I think so. There are many external factors that are affecting these decisions now, and then when they meet, they prioritize talking about their national securities and so forth, which is okay. But when they discover, oh, we have a meeting for climate change, then they start talking about the good things. So therefore, we have to continue on being vocal and ringing the bell that, well, these targets will not be met. And I think that at the end of the day, it will take time, yes, but at the end of the day, we will reach, because as you said, when there is a problem, money is available. So when there is a crisis or there is a serious problem, they get up with money. It seems that they did not yet reach the position there is a serious problem. So I think that geopolitics, different wars, different regions are taking, and different, I would say, as you said, internal politics in some instance, and leading powers are setting the stage now. When this settles down, I think they will focus then about these priorities, unfortunately. So until such time, we will be doing
the preparations,
and we will be doing the good things for our people. And so what we need to do is really to commit to the trilemma. So security, of supply, security of supply, affordability, and sustainability. This is the concept where a country like ours needs to focus on, tell you the truth. And therefore, with the partners here and the companies that are here, I think that this is the message whereby we are committed, we have proven to be good energy citizens, as we said, and at the same time, we are prioritizing energy security, sustainability, and affordability. And therefore, small projects like the ones that we spoke yesterday, and the president was very proud about talking with, like natural gas household instead of what we used to have, LPG bottle cylinders. And here in our culture, in a country like Egypt, and women needed to carry such a bottle, 30 kilograms on their heads. They put these things and go there from the warehouse till their home. This is not good. So therefore, we will be focusing on this, and we will supply as much as we can natural gas to our people with the maximum budgets, public money that we can give to the people as a priority, as well as all the projects that would avail not necessarily now the hydrogen or even clean gas, but at least the fuel that they need for their living.
Right. I was going to say, I thought it was really interesting, your comments to the opening ceremony and also in the CEO roundtable that we had. But President Azizi, I thought, made it very impassionedly, is what I said on social media, to say, look, you know, we've got Israel, Hamas, we've got Sudan in conflict, we've got the Red Sea bottlenecks, Bab el-Mandeb, which is a choke point, Suez revenues down. This is a very challenging time. How do you ensure that the ministry continues with its mandate when there's so much noise in the region, quite threatening noise in the region? How do you keep this team focused on the end goal? Because it's not easy, and you did a lot in the first 6 years in the ministry, so priorities for the next 6, but in a very turbulent period of time.
This is the challenge. Therefore, I would tell you that I will bet on 2 things. First of all, the teams, my people, and how committed and how sincere.
You got a young crop of people you brought in, I tell you, they're pushing.
We need to work hard. We need to be committed, because this is the time where we need to be patriotic. We need to look at our country, and we need to see how the country needs this dedication. We need to be very sincere. So I bet on them, not only because they are committed or sincere, but because they are talented. And as I was talking yesterday and explaining about the programs that have been undertaking over the last 4 or 5 years for developing not necessarily only the middle management, but also the senior leadership, so they have the skills, they have the ability and the capabilities in order to be resilient, to be strong, because now it's a hard time. We are passing through a hard time, and we are passing through really very sensitive and critical economic problem. The second thing that I'm betting on is what we did over years as well. Technology, digitalization, all the good things that we have done into our infrastructure. Now we need to capitalize on our infrastructure. When we were talking about the hub, not necessarily, and this is what I was talking yesterday, we are not necessarily a gas hub only, no, we are oil and gas hub, we are products hub, and we are electricity hub as well. So we need to capitalize on that. We are connected to the world, we are connected to our neighbors. We need now to play with each and every opportunity that we have, and that would generate revenues. We have transferred our sector, our industry, from a traditional conventional industry to an advanced modern one. We have the technology users, we have the technology enablers, we have process in place. Everything in our system now, I would say, is digital, and I think that we have advanced all the integration of our operations from the fields till the pump. So therefore, I see the entire value chain has improved, and we'll again capitalize on that so that we can optimize our operations and our, I would say, and this is the challenge. We will work on our operating capital, and this is the, I would say, the minimum that we can do, which is the optimization. With less revenues, as we all know, we need to keep up our standards, and we need to keep up providing the needs of the market and of the country and of the people.
Great. We have 3 minutes left. I wanted to make a brief observation, which I think would be useful for your staff, because you know I've covered energy for better than 30 years. The development of your fields, you know, so Zohr and West Nile and the Atoll, was a game changer for energy security for Egypt, first and foremost. But this idea that you're providing energy into Europe, if you were going to say that 10 years ago, people would have thought you were crazy, actually. So your speed to market with that large-scale development was tremendous. I wanted to find out, with all that experience you have in the private sector, now your ministerial leadership, how much faith do you have in technology to do exactly what you're suggesting here, to optimize your resources, to make that transition to green hydrogen, but actually to save us from quite rapid climate change? In January, we're at 1.52 degrees globally. It's the real deal, right? It's faster than we expected. And I shared these requests with other CEOs during the last 2 days, Your Excellency. But your thoughts, the faith in technology to accelerate our ability to deal with climate change and provide energy?
Definitely, I have faith in that. And actually, the development are very fast in technology. And we are also blessed that we have most of the technology providers are operating and working and partners with us in Egypt in all the value chain, upstream, midstream, and downstream. And they are really very keen into providing such technology. And this is an example of what I was explaining earlier on. I'm betting on our modernization achievements lately. It has helped us, and I believe that it will help us more. And why? Because that's why when I put this strategy back in 2016, the modernization of the oil and gas sector, among which developing the capacity of our people, developing their skills in order to make sure that they can be users of this technology, to speed up and to enhance and to optimize the resources. So therefore, we have seen that many of the service providers, technology providers, have availed for us for the first time some tools, and some for the first time in their operating companies, for the first time some tools and some advanced technologies to be used in Egypt, and has proven that we are good implementers. So I bet on that, I believe in that, and again, I'm happy and proud that we have the best international energy companies operating in Egypt. They are still coming in, and they are still committed to Egypt, not only internationally but also regionally, and this makes us proud. If we are not that attractive, or they do not trust this country or this system or the leadership, you wouldn't have seen this busy conference, this busy exhibition, this crowded, I would say, booth. Have you seen the strategic conferences? I mean, I'm very happy. So this means there is something good in this country. We have just to believe in ourselves, and we have to keep it up. We have to have confidence, and we have to have faith in God, inshallah. We will pass through, and we will be, and next year we'll talk about it, inshallah.
Yeah, I was going to say, we should do an open town hall. Let the ministry employees ask some questions at the end, because I can see them nodding with you, and they're listening very intently to every word that comes out of your mouth. Time is up, but I wanted to get the last minute of what you'd like to see in Egypt's 2025. This was pretty extraordinary. I got to say congratulations. But what else would you like to calibrate or fine tune for next year?
I think that this was the first edition for an energy conference. So I think next time, with the experience that the people have seen and the companies, the observers, the audience, I think next year we want to feel more of energy as integrated, and I think that this will be more represented in the exhibition halls, into more diversity in the panels and in the discussions that could include serious integration between all the elements of energy all together. Because I would say that this time, as the first time, it was like they are testing the water. Is it true? Are you serious? So I think that next year, I believe that this is what we want to see, an integrated energy conference, and we'll see a lot of additional companies that would represent the entire industry.
Good. And they'll have a new energy plan to which to invest in.
Correct.
Correct. Can we give a nice round of applause? Thank you for the invitation. Appreciate it.